All right, as we're all gathering in, why don't we do a quick check-in? If folks just want to drop in the chat how they're doing, what's on your mind, um, any joy that you want to share, any challenges, just kind of use the chat or come off of mute to just kind of get comfortable and get warmed up for today. Let us know what's on your mind. I'm definitely here. I think a lot of folks are going to co-sign on that joy, Joseph. Sunshine and above zero temps. Here for that. And I see we're still welcoming some folks. So for those who are just joining us, welcome, welcome. We're just doing a quick check-in, and then we'll talk a little bit about the day and get started. And Antonio, whenever you're ready, it looks like you're here somewhere. Okay, there you are. I see you. I see you in the squares. If you want to come off mute and give us our warm-up question today, because as you all know, today is all about youth, all about the young folks, hearing from them, engaging with them, learning alongside them. So we got Antonio. I'm too old to be leading right now, and we're gonna kick it over to Antonio, who's gonna get us going with the question. Go ahead, Antonio.
Right. Hey, good evening, everybody. I'm glad you could all make it today. Our check-in question is going to be thinking about a time when you were a young person. Um, I know for me that wasn't that long ago. For some people that was longer than me. But just thinking back to when you were a young person and you were allowed to step into a space of leadership. Um, I want you to think about that, that situation and how that impacted you. And then on the count of three, once you have thought about it, or well, I want you to, that was not shade. Anyway, I do want us to share our answers at the same time. So whenever you have that idea of what it was like to be a young person in a leadership role, then you can type it in the chat, but don't hit enter just yet. I want to give everybody a chance to type their answers out, and then on the count of three, we can all do a chat fall.
Can you share the prompt one more time? Think of a time, and then what are we supposed to type in the chat?
Yeah, my sorry about that. I know the way that I word questions can be a bit confusing, so I'm gonna also put it in the chat for you to make it a bit easier. But thinking back to when you were a young person and you had an opportunity to um, step into a leadership role, thinking about that opportunity and that situation, that experience, how did that experience impact you? Probably give it a couple more seconds just for people to get their ideas in the chat, and then we can all share them. All righty. On the count of three, we're all gonna share our answers. One, two, three, and then you can hit enter now. I know some people hit enter a little early. That's okay. We're all human. It's all good. I'm really liking these answers. Lindsay says she felt lifted up. I learned that words have power. That is great. It was empowering. Crossing Garden Middle School made you feel like you mattered. Made you feel more independent. Yeah, I really appreciate everyone really sharing your answers with us. The whole point of this check-in question was really to get us in a space of thinking about, or I guess wearing the shoes of a young person, wearing the shoes of a student, the students that we have the opportunity to teach, and thinking about how just simply allowing a young person to take lead can really impact them and shift them in a different space. I am gonna go ahead and toss it over to Mark in order to get us started with our Q&A.
Colin, feel free to jump in here as well. I think we're transitioning into the promising practice. Is that correct? Conversation. So
That's
I don't know if
correct.
somebody's got control of the screen. If you can pull that up. We just wanted to provide some time and some space for you to ask questions about promising practices or a plan for a promising practice. And then we'll be breaking you off into your cohorts or your groups to actually sit down and work on that application. Thanks, Marisa. I see it there.
I think first we should maybe give an overview with the whole agenda.
Perfect. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a good idea. You want to do that, or do you want me to do it?
Why don't you do it, Mark? Since you made this slide, which is great.
So we did something a little bit different tonight. We wanted to lay out the objective and kind of give you that 30,000 foot view for today's agenda and objectives. So we put this all on one slide, and then before we segue into the next activity, that objective will be up there as well. But first of all, Antonio, thanks for the intro and the welcome. That's a great way to start off with our focus on youth empowerment and youth leadership. So I'm looking forward to that starting at 6 o'clock this evening. Next, we're going to transition from 4:40 to 5 o'clock. We're going to give you a chance to ask any questions about the application process for promising practice. And Lauren mentioned the deadline is April 1st, so that's coming fairly quickly. Just from experience, the application isn't too in depth. It shouldn't take a long time for you to fill that out, but we're here to help you in that process. And that from 5 to 5:50, you'll have a chance to work on that. We already have a template for you to fill out, so you just find your group, click on the group, and that'll get you started if you haven't already started that process. We'll take a break from 5:50 to 6, and then we'll have our panel discussion. We'll be breaking up into two different groups, the K-12 group and then the post K-12 after starting around 6 o'clock. So I'm looking forward to that. And you're going to get a chance to reflect on maybe some things that you're doing at your school that are empowering students. And then hopefully you'll learn a few things from the schools that are presenting. We have Brown Deer, and we also have Greenwood Elementary School from River Falls presenting with a couple of students. So that'll be pretty exciting. And I know Lauren's got a group as well, organization for their presentation as well. So that ties with Principle 9. And when we talk about trying to make connections to the principles that we've been learning about, Principle 9 is really engaging. There's a shared leadership process, and that part of that includes the students in that process. And so that's the connection with Principle 9. And then your feedback's really important for us, and we want to make sure we're getting feedback. So we've carved out 5 minutes for you to complete that evaluation. There's a link there as well. And then our favorite person, Amira Adams, is going to be doing another poem flip for us. I didn't realize she could sing either. That was pretty impressive last time. That was really cool. And then the other thing we got feedback from the group, from our participants, is to mix groups. So we're going to have a mixed cohort to reflect on the youth empowerment panel and to share ideas at that point to wrap up this evening. So with that, Colin, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I think you covered all the details beautifully.
Are there any questions regarding the application process?
So this is a chance together as a whole group to see if anybody has any questions for Mark or Colin. Much wait time.
I don't know. That's pretty good. I think that's long enough.
I do too. But
I think we can break off.
maybe, Mark, do you want to help give us some insight to what we should be doing when we get into our breakout rooms?
Yeah,
With-
so
yeah.
I think, each of the character coaches is working with a different group. And so the coaches will be joining you and hopefully helping along with that process. So as I mentioned, there's a link there for you to, it's basically the application. We just wanted to create a template, maybe take one thing off your plate so you don't have to worry about creating a template. And you can start filling in that application between now and 5:50. And we're here to help with that.
So I can, go ahead, Colin.
I was going to say just one reminder, and maybe this discussion has started from past group times, but really a focus this year is really a change in practice that you've had that may or may not be connected to character, but is in response to even the pandemic or virtual learning or conducting school through this year. We know how different that has looked, and that may be something that you've had a focus on in your past discussions. That's certainly taken into account in this year's application. So don't hesitate to include just even a new wrinkle that has been a part of your school experience this year.
And I just would like to add that Jaffe is here tonight. She's going to be popping into all of the sessions to be calendaring with you because she's going to be giving us some additional support as a National School of Character evaluator. And so she's going to be working really as a promising practice coach, which is just like a wonderful use of her knowledge. So she will be popping into each session and touching base with you to set up some time where she can work with you more in depth. So thank you, Jaffe.
I'm excited. You're welcome.
Well, we can break into those breakout rooms before 5 o'clock. We can kind of adjust our schedule unless anybody has questions for the group before we go into them. Okay. All right.
And I think we're also taking a break right before we come back. So we're going to go till 5:50 and then come back at 6 for our panel. Is that right?
That sounds great.
Okay, so at 5:50, everyone take a break, grab a bite, bathroom, whatever, walk up, get around so that you come back at 6 and we have these really great student panels.
For our amazing panels are beginning. So I'll say this a few times because people are coming back from the breakout rooms kind of a staggered way. Actually, I'll just wait. I can wait for 30 seconds until everybody's back to give instructions. So you might notice some new faces as you're coming in, and these are the faces of our youth leader panelists, which we're super excited about. And so now everybody's back. Okay, it's nice to see you all again. We have 2 options right now for both amazing panels. One is a K-12 panel of student leaders. And if you are part of a traditional K-12 setting, if you're in an elementary, middle, or high school, and you want to learn more about shaping leadership within the school setting, then you should stay in this session. However, there may be some people even at your school who want to go to the Beyond K-12 session. Lauren, do you want to introduce again with your words what the Beyond K-12 session is?
Sure. Yeah. Beyond K-12 is just centered on questions and thinking that are not necessarily specific to the traditional K-12 education space. So more of a focus on student leadership, kind of what cultivated that leadership and hearing from them and just their general reflections, not necessarily rooted in what came from or is happening within just the K-12 space.
So you get to decide what's best for you, regardless of if you work in a K-12 setting or not. Maybe the Beyond K-12 would be a really good avenue for you and your school. If you want to stay in the how do we shape leaders within the school building, stay in this session. But I just dropped in the chat, and I'll drop it in again. There's a different Zoom link for the Beyond K-12 session, and we'll be there till 6:50, and then everybody will come back to this session again. Does that make sense? All right, so if you are Beyond K-12, you may go to the other Zoom link, and we'll see you all in 50 minutes.
Where I step in.
Yeah, it is.
Hey everyone, I'm glad you can make it tonight. I just want to give a special thanks to everyone who is here to participate in this session and just listen to our panelists and the questions that I'll be asking them. And I also want to give a special thanks to our panelists here today. Some coming from Greenwood Elementary, others coming from Brown Deer Middle and High School. So just a big welcome and a big thank you for spending your time here with us today. Excuse me. So with that being said, the people that are joining us from Greenwood Elementary are Emily Rose, and with her are three of her, Emily is a school counselor at Greenwood Elementary. I'm sorry, that's an important piece of information I almost left out. With her are three students from the Greenwood Elementary School, and they are Will, Brielle, and Maddie. I'm glad that you're all here. Happy that you could, join us. With that, we also have people from Brown Deer Middle and High School. With us from Brown Deer is Tasha Womack. Along with her is Kathleen Dimmer, and a couple of students from their school is Hattie Johnson and Ava Hayes.
And Gabriella, I think that if you're with Lauren Feaster, you can join that other Zoom link for that Beyond K-12.
So much if I don't figure it out.
Do you see it in the chat, Gabriella? Okay.
Did Gabby get over to the other session?
Yeah, I just sent her over.
Okay, that's how I was coming back.
Thank
See
you.
ya.
All right. So before we get into the questions, I suppose whoever would like to start, I just want to open the floor to our panelists. Just a little bit about yourself and your experience with the character, the character education program in your school.
I can start for Greenwood. So as introduced, I'm Emily Rose. I'm the school counselor at Greenwood Elementary, and I brought three of my fifth graders, Maddie, Will, and Brielle, with me because they've been kind of my leaders. This year looks a little bit different for us, but I've been at my school for 6 years, and character education has been at River Falls long before that. But I'm a part of our character committee for our staff, and then I also lead some of our character council groups that we can talk about later. But some of those are voices where we have a podcast crew, a Some Good News video, and they help create character lessons at our school.
And I'm Tasha Womack. I'm the principal at Brown Deer High School, and I have along with me Mrs. Dimmer. She is the advisor for our Brown Deer Way committee, which is basically our work with character education. And with her, we have two student leaders. They sit on the Brown Deer Way committee, and that's Hattie Johnson and Ava Hayes. And we have been working with character education for about 10 years. We've won National School of Character, and we've won a couple of, I can't even think of the other awards right now. It slips my mind, but I'll think of it in a second. But that's who we are in Brown Deer.
All-American City Award, Tasha.
No, not the All-American City. We won 2 promising practice.
Okay.
I couldn't get my words out. It was 2 promising practice.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Now, I guess getting into the questions, and all of you, the students from both Greenwood and from Brown Deer, you're welcome to answer these questions as well. I guess my first question is, what is your student leadership program? Yeah, pretty much just I guess give us a spiel on what that looks like, how it performs, what it feels like, in your schools.
So Antonio, before I'll let somebody else go, but I forgot to introduce my superintendent, Dr. Kelsey Brown, who's on here as well.
Thank you, Ms. Womack. Good evening, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here this evening. Thank you for the invite.
Okay, so I'll talk for Brown Deer. My name's Hattie. I'm a senior. I've been on the Brown Deer Way team since 7th grade. So each week we come together and meet, and we plan a lesson that is taught in the homeroom. So it's like an hour section of the day. So it's taught once a week, and we do a variety of things. We address topics like in the school, but then also in the world. So a lot of it's been very different having virtual school. So we've tried to adapt to that. So we've done, at the start of the year, we did lessons about like staying organized online and like trying to make, create a planner for yourself so you can keep track of when your classes are and stuff like that. Our most recent lesson, we had students kind of brainstorm like what from quarantine they think that they will keep doing, and then also plan like what their idea of a re-entry plan for next year would be. And then we're going to send those lessons actually to Dr. Brown. So it would just be like the student input and what they think it will look like next year.
Thank you, Hattie.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I don't mean to, overstep my, my place as a moderator, but I went to Alliance High School, and we had something similar to that. There's a restorative practices program, and in the restorative practices program, you learn about restorative practices, of course, and you learn a bit about yourself, so that way you're able to apply yourself to these types of situations. And with that, they hold school-wide circles twice a semester. And so, as a young person in that program, we're the ones that, create the topic. We set up the questions, we set up the groups and everything. So it's really awesome to, hear that there are other schools that are implementing similar, character education type programs in their schools to allow, youth to, take leadership roles.
Yeah, we really there's a group of like 10 students, and we meet each week, and Miss Dimmer is at all of the meetings. She does most of the like typing and organizing the document, and she does give some ideas, but it is mostly like the students. She gives us more ideas, but we pick like what we want to do, what topics and that sort of thing.
That's awesome.
And I will come in and say that I also lean on this team to make decisions regarding any major events that are happening at the school. So they generally, if we weren't virtual, they will participate in our building leadership team. 2 members, different members come each month, and they sit with us and discuss whatever major decisions or whatever happenings are happening at the high school, just so the students have some input. This year it's been a little different. I kind of chase them down, as Hattie knows, and I'll say, hey, this is going on. Can you help me with this? Get this out to all the students. I need a feel of what students want. And they take that information and they bring back the collective feedback from their peers. And so that it's always been helpful for us. And that continues to be an asset for us in this team. So I always am very thankful for that team for that.
Well, for Greenwood, I can pass it off to my students. I was thinking of 3 times that, they've been involved with our leadership. As 4th graders, their year kind of got cut short last year. And then as 5th graders, we haven't been able to have a lot of our normal character council we have open, instead of doing student council where students are elected and it becomes kind of a popularity contest, we have what's called our character council. So any fourth or fifth grader that wants to be a part of it can be a part of it, and it's character and service driven. And so some years we have up to 80 to 90 students being on our character council, and they break off into different groups. Some of those groups are ones that they get to be the leaders of the school. They read to younger students. They create our character lesson for the year, our pride group writers. And then also we had our podcast and our Some Good News. So another thing our fifth graders are really, our biggest leadership thing is they do our patrolling, which at our school is a really big deal. We have captains and lieutenants, and they're trained on safety and how to make sure that their students that they're covering are leading with character, and they have a lot of responsibility on the streets and in the hallways and in the bus lines. So I was thinking, Will, you probably could talk about Some Good News, maybe Brielle patrolling, and maybe Maddie, you could talk about the Pride Group writers, just really brief.
Yeah, I would love to hear about about your programs and all of the activities that you're all into. I apologize for my cat. I hope it's not too much of a distraction. She really is just a big baby, and whenever I'm in a meeting, she has to make sure she is seen. So sorry about that.
So I guess I'll start for Greenwood then. We do something every month that's called Pride Groups, and we have a group of kids who plan that lesson that we're learning, like in the Pride Group. So like, for example, I am in the Pride Group with my music teacher, which we can't be this year because of COVID. So we basically learn about the character trait of the month, which now it's positive attitude. And so our gym teacher, Mrs. Linehan, is actually in charge, one of the people who are in charge of that lesson group planning, the planning group. So it's basically a group of kids are assigned a month to basically plan the lesson that we are going to plan the lesson of the trait that we are going to learn about.
Will, do you want to talk about the podcast?
Yep. The podcast is a podcast where we talk about stories about people who basically do what that month of character does. Since we got cut short last year, we got to do a Some Good News show. I did all four. So
Will, do you want to share who you got to interview?
I got to interview a Packers player named Billy Turner from the Packers, yes. I also got to interview one of the teachers from our school, Miss Rasmussen. She was making masks and mailing them to some people or giving them to them through their mailbox. I thought it would be a good one for Some Good News. And we just came out with our new Some Good News podcast. We tried to mush the podcast crew and the Some Good News show into one. It was pretty fun.
And then Brielle, really quickly, if you can unmute, you can talk about your leadership as a patrol.
So for patrolling, once you get to 5th grade, you get sworn in, and they kind of teach you how to keep kids safe. Once you get sworn in, you get a job assigned for every week. So you can either do classrooms, outside patrolling, or you're a sub. And all you really do is just make sure that kids are safe and they're showing good character. And yeah.
Yeah, that's excuse me. Those are like some awesome programs. I love to hear about the patrolling and the podcast in particular. Like those are probably my favorite. I love to talk. That's why I'm here in this position right now. I am a talkative person, so I would definitely be on that podcast with you guys. Will, I'm gonna need your autograph because you seem like a pretty popular dude. Who knows that autograph may appreciate in value. I could probably you know what I'm saying? Okay. On to our next question. So how well, I guess we kind of went over that, is like how are the students of your school how are the students of your school leaders? How do you show, how are how are the youth of your school, how are they leaders? How do they like I guess model leadership? But after hearing, about your programs, it's really obvious that was an obvious answer. So we can move on to the next question is where do you hear student voices as leaders?
If I may start, one of the big places where I hear voices are especially in that podcast crew, because they're sharing everything that's going on in the school, maybe going on in other people's lives, and stuff that we just have to like be aware about. Also with the Pride group writers, they can like express how they feel about the character traits and everything that's we're learning about.
That's awesome.
I guess I'll go next. What I see is, as when I see leaders' voices, is sometimes on the playground when something's not going right. That happens a lot with my class because, like, when we're playing kickball, there's like some weird cheating that some people don't even know they're cheating. So yeah.
That's all fine. We still have Hattie, if you wanted to speak on Brown Deer's behalf on how students' voices are heard.
So in our lessons, every once in a while we'll ask, like we'll kind of introduce a topic and then ask people in the classes and also teachers, like if they have anything that they want to address, or if there's any like topics that have come up. We did this at the beginning of the year, and then we do it every once in a while, and just to get feedback and make sure that like we're doing stuff that's still engaging and stuff like that. And then Ava came back. I don't know if she wants to continue.
Can you hear me now?
You might have to move to a different area in your house. Yeah, your connection is your connection isn't very strong.
Ava, you could also chat your response, and Antonio or someone could read it out loud too, if that's easier.
Yeah, thanks, Marissa. Got you. And then while Ava is typing out her response, was there anyone else that wanted to answer on how student voices are heard?
I think from here, I think that one of the things we've definitely learned this year being virtual, Hattie had discussed those surveys. We have found, I think, more honest responses using a Google Form survey now more than we ever had when we just kind of sent out the lesson and sent something to the teachers. Could you just type us a response? How is it going? But using those forms has been extremely helpful. And I think we've gotten ideas that are things that we wouldn't have expected to get. And I think that's been very beneficial. And I think moving forward, we would probably continue with that form for surveys.
at Greenwood, I think we really talk about that leadership position as they're in 4th and 5th grade, especially with our character council. Their voice when we have major events or things going on, we often tap into that character council group, and we have a group within our character council. I think we have over 30 small group like service projects in our character council. One of them is welcoming new students. So those students that choose that group, they create welcome bags and they make sure that that student that's new feels welcomed. We have knitting hats for babies at the hospital. So while it's not leadership within our school, it's showing that service. But then there's like those leadership positions like our read to younger students. They practice books and go down to younger grade levels and read to them. We have our podcast crew, the Pride Group writers. And then there's some other ones like our Fun and Fitness Day crew. They lead our assemblies and they help present those. So most of the areas where we have voices that need to be heard, we've been trying to weave in having students be involved with it.
And I'd like to chime in and say a different way that I get student feedback is like if I'm in the lunchroom or in the hallways out and there's certain events going on in the community, just like everything that was happening this summer with George Floyd or just around social justice, I'll have students approach me and say, hey, Mrs. Womack, can you talk to the BD-Way team? We want to do lessons around this particular topic. Or they'll actually go straight to the BD-Way students and say that those are the lessons that they would like to address. And then the students take the lead from there. And the lessons have been powerful to the point where sometimes I read them weekly and I'm sitting at my desk and I'm crying. I'm not even engaging with others, but just from reading what the actual topic is, the discussion topic is, or the questions that I have to respond to, it's just moving. So that's another way that we get feedback from students. And I see Ava put her response in the chat.
Yeah, thanks for that. And that's it's really awesome that that you take the time to hear back from your students on what they would like to talk about. It's really healthy to establish a safe place for students to kind of I guess create lessons around the things that they see in the real world and the things that they see around them in their surroundings, in their community, their society. And then on to Ava's answer. I'm going to read it out loud for everyone. We use discussions and surveys or polls to get responses from students and rely pretty heavily on them to shape our lessons and figure out how we move forward. With the lessons we did this week, we got ideas from students about how they want the next school year to look like, and that will actually help the administration make decisions about next year as a whole. Like I love hearing how students are so deeply integrated into I guess like the planning for it. Like Tasha said, like they have an influence on the big decisions about how the school year is going to be ran, and like having a student-led school really makes the difference for young people. Rather than feeling like you're being bossed around or feeling like you're less than, you actually feel as though you are on the same plane as another person. And it's humanizing, it's really it's I don't know, it's like the work of a person's heart, that is real hard work right there, is allowing students to step into those leadership roles, allowing students to make decisions. Just really awesome. Just so happy I can be here and speak to you all and hear from you. Okay. Sorry about that, went on a tangent. On to the next question. So what about your school's environment helped these students become leaders? And if the students that are here, if you would like to answer or if you would like to start, then I'm more than welcome to. You're more than welcome to do so.
So I'll start. Like I said before, I was invited to be on the Brown Deer White team my 7th grade year. And I think just seeing like we all worked together. So I think just seeing that there was like older kids who, I mean, they were, I don't want to say like popular kids, but like they were on sports teams. They were involved in a lot of stuff. You saw them around. They were nice people, like saying hi in the hallways and just all that kind of stuff. Just kind of like made it seem not so like scary to try and give input and like realize how big of an impact it really was, because like what we plan is like really educating a lot of people and talking about all of the current events. Like some people don't talk about that at home or with their friends even. So I feel like there's a lot of like it has a big impact on people. And so I think just seeing how big of a change it actually does have like made me want to be a part of it and take it more seriously.
I think if any of my students want to talk about, this year we weren't able to sign up for character council just because of COVID regulations. Thankfully, we've been back in school in person, but there's just some things we can't do while we're here. But maybe speak to in fourth grade, what pushed you to want to be on our character council?
Basically what we have been doing is talk distantly. So I do a kids club after school, so I get to kind of talk distantly with a few of my friends that are in younger grades or in other classes. Also, it kind of makes me feel better when you can still go outside and talk to your friends in other classes. It's nice and it kind of helps out with our school environment.
And
next, what pushed me to go into character council is the fact that I'm helping people, and helping people out makes me feel really good. And like seeing the people smiling or just the impact I've made on other people, it's a really nice feeling.
And adding on to Brielle's idea, I really like helping people around the community, whether it's like opening the door for someone, carrying groceries for someone. I just really like to help people, and that's what kind of pushed me on to being on the character council.
Yeah, I really appreciate your answers once again. And I guess to kind of relate to you all as far as like how Alliance was run. So with the community or the what did I say? The school-wide circles, there it is, that are held twice every semester. It's really awesome to have the opportunity to sit down with, like a mixture of different people, like a mixture of different people from different classes, whether like I be a freshman and then I get to sit with a senior and a junior who are in, different classes than I am, or being able to sit with my friends and then learn more about, my mutual friends, or just learn more about people that I have no clue about. That's just that's a really important aspect to have in a school, is that everyone feels connected in some way. So that environment piece, and especially having the the ability to be in a leadership role, helps to build environment in the school. And that's just speaking from the Alliance model. I can only imagine how in Brown Deer and in Greenwood, how how things are going for you guys. I can only assume great things, of course. But it's really, I don't know, it gives me hope. Although I'm not too far above you all. I've seen, the people that are in my generation, are some of them are out of touch with reality. And so to hear that, there are people who still push for a healthy environment for kids to students to learn and to grow, not only as a person that's learning about academics, but as a person who is growing as an individual. it's just great to hear that. And then Ava's response was, along with a lot of encouragement from teachers, I think it's just a realization that the decisions made will directly affect us as students. And understanding that I can take this opportunity to have an input and to bring discussions to the table that need to be had. Yeah, I have to say, like I said, although I'm not, too far ahead of you all, I'm only 22 years old myself. I just, yeah, like I said, this just gives me hope being able to sit with you all and speak to you all and have this conversation. The next question is how do you define community or leadership? Either or. And both I guess the administrators, teachers, counselors, you're, free to start this question if you would like to, and the students, you're also welcome to start off this question.
Well, I think for us at Greenwood, when we are going through our application to become a state and national school of character, one of our biggest things that we kind of were talking about is, how do we have, how is Greenwood a community of character? And then also, how are we creating leaders of character? And we always use that, and my students will know that. We always say, are you being a leader of character? That's how we kind of define it at Greenwood is, how are we able to not only show our character, but then lead others down the path of good character, and creating a community with common language that supports ours. It's really great that our whole district has all the same character traits that all our students learn from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade. And they work on them every year and they know it. And we talk about, our Greenwood motto is do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. They can probably all mouth it along. But that's kind of how we define community and really leadership within our school, is making sure that students are involved in that process.
And another way Greenwood is a great community school is because all of the voices of every single person in the school can be heard. No one is described by like your mental disorders or stuff like that. It's just a really great place to have kids be around because I forgot the word. Because all the students are a part of that community.
Antonio, can you repeat the question? I missed that.
Yeah, the question was, how do you define community or leadership? Before someone answers, I do want to say I loved your answer, Maddie. It's really, I get the idea that you were putting out there is that you're all learning how to respect each other as individuals and not look at each other with a label. So that's a really nice nice way of thinking.
I'll jump in next and say my definition of community and leadership is just shared. It's no way you can run a building without getting the input of all involved. That means your students, your teachers, your community members. So yeah, just simple as shared.
I think too is just making sure that everyone is comfortable with each other. Like that's another piece, is making sure that like students aren't afraid to give input, like making sure that even if you don't like the input, that it's received nicely and that it's encouraged for students and even teachers to give feedback and give their input.
I think leadership is actually kind of what us patrols do. We try to take charge when there's something kind of messed up or kind of
maybe there's
messy.
a problem.
kind of, yeah, when there's a problem, patrols kind of fix it when there is a problem, a mess, or just something that's not going so well. A few years ago a year ago when we were in 4th grade, when people were going out to buses, there was some started to like shove, so the patrols kind of started to fix that, and that's why I kind of joined the patrol.
I'll add something. It's about knowing the community that you're dealing with. The building those relationships with not only like the young people, the students and whatnot, but building those relationships with parents and community leaders, and getting out there and just making yourself be known. Let people understand your passion. When you're dealing with young people like I do, they look at you as a perfect person. You know, when you're a teacher or some kind of leader in the community, they see you being perfect. So you got to kind of level down with them and just let them know, hey, I'm not perfect. When I was your age, I used to do this, that, and the third. I used to get in trouble. I used to like to play video games and whatnot. I used to do, like some people open up to people that, some specifically young people, they open up to people who express themselves in a way where it's like, I've been there too. I understand what you're going through. I know what's going on in the community. I know, I want to get out there and understand you more and just get out there and just meet people that you otherwise wouldn't be involved with, outside of the realm that you're dealing with, like the school district or whatnot. So that's just kind of how I do things. I just get connected with people that, that just need that extra attention, and just try to be passionate about what I'm doing and express myself in ways that most people wouldn't feel comfortable. Like I like to tell people about my past and that I didn't grow up, I didn't always grow up doing great things, and I made mistakes and whatnot. And I like to tell people about that. And that's how people feel a little bit more comfortable to opening up to you when they know that you're not out there trying to be, above everybody or whatnot, because that's just the way people look at us, like as teachers. I mean, we're just perfect. So when you level down with them and just gain an understanding with them, they feel more comfortable opening up to you. So that's just been my experience.
I would also add community is having a sense of belonging and knowing that the space that you're in every day, and in our case, our K-12 settings, is a space where you are accepted and respected for who you are as a person and for the ideas you bring to the table. And then as far as leadership is concerned, I would define leadership as stepping up, stepping out, and taking initiative, and sometimes even being unpopular in the space in order to problem solve issues or concerns. And sometimes it means being uncomfortable and placing yourself in a space to talk about those issues and concerns that may be uncomfortable to certain groups of individuals, but also coming together at the end for a common cause, for the betterment of all.
Yeah, appreciate that. And Torella or Marquise, also appreciate your answer. It was a bit unexpected because you're not one of the panelists, but that's a great perspective. Thank you, though. Thank you for sharing. And then was there any other panelists that wanted to answer the question on how do you define community or leadership? All righty. Moving on to the next question is, what are the challenges to embracing or implementing opportunities for student voice and student leadership? And this question is more so aimed towards the teachers, the staff of the schools. So reiterating the question, what are the challenges to embracing or implementing opportunities for student voices or student leadership?
Real quick, I wanted to throw in, I kind of missed what you who you was pointing that question to, so I apologize ahead of time.
All good.
My bad.
That was a great answer.
I'll
So
come
it's okay.
in and say, I think just releasing what some or most think is the power, being the principal, giving up that so-called power to open it up for input from both students or just their peers in general to make decisions, and having an open mind to see why they see things the way that they do. So it takes you being able to give up, as they say, the power, and then for you to step back to see someone else's vision, or to have a better understanding of why they've made their decision or why they're making the certain requests that they are making, and how it serves the better good for the bigger group of people.
I agree with that. That came up a lot when we would start to try and give up some of that, not give up, but extend some of that leadership to our kids. We, kind of ran in, are they developmentally ready? Can they handle this? That came up a lot. And any challenge that we've given to our kids, they've risen to the challenge, and if not exceeded it. Creating the lessons, oftentimes teachers are like, we never would have even thought of those lessons. The activities that kids bring, the thoughts that they have in our podcast and our Some Good News, it's just nice to be able to hear their voice unprompted sometimes, where they get to give what they feel, and it's not trying to fit the box for an assignment. It's just their platform to have their own voice. And at the elementary level, it's the added component of just giving them time to be able to do it. It's going to take a lot longer than maybe an adult doing it. Looking at creating a lesson, I have to find time to meet with them to talk about what are the components of writing a lesson, what goes into it, giving them time to brainstorm and opportunities. And so that takes a lot longer than me just sitting down and typing up a lesson plan. So the time piece, I think, is probably a challenge, but on the long end of being able to see these kids accomplish things that they're not normally able to, and then having them have that pride of the work that they completed.
And from the teacher leader standpoint, sometimes we struggle with trust from teachers. When the lessons are sent out, trusting that the students will respond to it in a positive way, or trusting that they can present the material in an authentic way. And sometimes when I get messages back after people have viewed the lesson and say, I don't think I can do this. Usually once they do, and we give them all of the tools they need, they're surprised at how well it's received. But from the teacher that's pushing out the lessons, I think that's the biggest challenge that I see, is that yes, the students are putting together really good information, and their peers will respond to it very well. Just trust us.
Awesome. I did have a request from Mark. We're approaching the last 5 minutes of our session before we head out into a break. So I guess I'll take some advice from Mark. And Tasha, if you would be willing to talk about the impact of the character education, the impact of the character education program, and that it has had on your school, and a little bit about the data.
Sure. Thanks for volunteering me, Mark. We share this story together a lot. We started our work with character education in Brown Deer back in 2011. At that time, I always say that our data, we were averaging about 12,000 referrals per school year. And so we looked into different programming. As we all know, PBIS was very popular then, but character education was also out here. And so we were just looking for something that would impact a larger group of people. And so we brought in, stakeholders from all over the community, parents, teachers, students, aides in the building, cafeteria staff, to just look at our data and decide how we could do things differently. We ultimately ended up working with character education. We had this grand plan, and the staff, we rolled out these lessons that we had planned. Our summer staff had given up their time to work over the summer. We rolled it out, and it was a complete fail for us. When we first started, the students didn't think our lessons were engaging at all. They thought they were more elementary. And I think the biggest piece from that, while we involved the students in the beginning, we left them out of the planning over the summer. And so when we came back and we rolled the lessons out and it failed, I kind of asked students, like, what's happening? Why is this not working? Because you guys were all in at once. And then they explained they were a little too elementary. They said, let us write a couple of lessons. And they started off and they wrote a couple of lessons. And I'm like, okay, but I really need you to hit these topics. This has to be serious. And they're like, well, we know what we want to hear. And so we allowed them to write. So that first lesson, it went off well. So, okay, let's try another one. See if, that's just one time. See if you can get it right again. They did, and they continued to write our lessons, and they just took over the lead of the program. And that's what changed the climate of our building. We went from 12,000 referrals a year to under 1,100 referrals per year. And I think that has a lot to do with the work with character education. Like, we spend a lot of time on it, a lot of planning around the lessons, and the students were actually getting the input from the students as to the climate of the building. So lessons then were more tied to the climate of what was happening in our building. We have since grown to attack bigger issues that are happening in the community or in the nation. But we started off small, and they took the lead, and they greatly changed our data. Average GPAs then, I think, were like 2.6 or something. We were over 3.2. So we contribute that impact to our work with character education. So hopefully that was a short story, and I didn't take up too much time. But I'm the same mark that I normally share. You have to help me.
No, that was perfectly fine. That was actually right on the mark. We are just now hitting 6:49. It's about to be 6:50 in a few seconds. We're going to go ahead and get into a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back at 7 and get into the next part of our session for today. It should be led by, excuse me, give me just a second. The next part of our session should be led by Lauren to complete the evaluation for the breakouts.
Yeah, before we go, I see some love coming in the chat. Can we just say thank you to all the young leaders who are with us? You can unmute, you can put it in the chat, you can wave. It's really wonderful.
And I know a few of my students have to run to basketball practice, so you guys can log off. Yeah. Will, thanks for joining.
Same for my students. Thank you so much for giving up your time this evening, and thanks to everyone who participated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Trinice, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, y'all, you may have a short break while we wait for other people to come back. So we'll rally together again at 1 o'clock. Thank you, Antonio.
Yeah, no problem.
Antonio, you don't need us to stay, right? We're done.
Yeah.
So you should have received, if you decided to sign up for one of these book groups, gift cards to Amazon to purchase the books. And that was amazing to me to get that. I mean, what an amazing email to get in the inbox to say you have this amount of money to purchase your books. If you are in one of the groups, if you chose the Innocent Classroom or the Power of Moments or Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain, you should have received or will receive shortly an email from somebody from LACCS asking you for your preferences about when to meet. So more information should be coming soon about that. And I am going to drop into the chat our evaluation. We have not been getting enough feedback in the last couple sessions. We've been leaving it till the very end. So we're asking you to do it right now in the next 3 minutes, because your reward after you do it? Well, to be able to hear Amira. So just give us some feedback, because we really take it to try to shape the program for you. Then we'll get to hear from Amira, and then we're taking some of your feedback to put you into mixed groups, so you're not just with your cohort, to be able to process the day. Oh, no need to apologize about not doing the eval. It's not your bad. I think it was ours, but everybody wants to leave at the end. Nobody wants to do it at the very end. But we do take your feedback seriously. So I'll drop it in the chat one more time. It's just a quick Google form. Okay, just to make sure that we give Amira the space and that we're all present, I'm going to ask us, and you can join me physically doing this, or you can just sit while we do it. This is something that I do with my students a lot. It's one of our social emotional learning things where we just called Take 5, where we breathe in and breathe out. And I'll trace my fingers and just give you a breathe in, breathe out prompt. Okay, so if you'll breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, and breathe out. Okay, so I'm spotlighting Amira for everyone. I think we're all present with you now, Amira.
Alrighty. So again, my name is Amira Adams, also known as Amira the Poet. And this poem is kind of talking about my leadership journey in a sense, and it kind of just speaks to me and how I started to really embrace my voice. So this poem is entitled The Eulogy. We are here today to celebrate the life of the old me. Let's take a moment of silence. RIP to the old me, the type too blind to see reality, who thought her dreams were as far as can be when really they were right there next to me. Too blind to realize she was that dream of her parents, of King, even of herself, who stored up her emotions and left them on the top shelf so she could put on her poker face and be who she was supposed to be, who laughed with her friends and sipped on that hot tea when the dark-skinned girl they were talking about had the same complexion as me, who in the back of her mind was self-conscious because what they might be saying behind my back. I didn't want to say something because I didn't want that friendship to crack when they were beating on the glass door waiting for it to crack, you know, knick-knack, paddywhack, give a dog a bone. It was time for me to start facing it. I was the dog and they were the bone, and I was steady chasing it. Like I said, RIP to the old me. RIP to that sweet little baby who never even cried at night until she got around the age of 15 yelling, why Black people are oppressed, were oppressed, and will be oppressed, and what can I do to stop it? Now the adults who saw me as that young baby who they never had to tell to stop it, wants me to stop it. Why are you yelling so loud, they say. I replied, because they're not hearing me. Why are you yelling so loud, they say. I replied, because they're not feeling me. But you're so precious, you need to act like a treasure. I replied, maybe it's time for me to apply some more pressure, so here I am. We are here today to celebrate the life of the new me. I went through the process and let the Lord renew me. Round of applause, standing ovation. Oh wow, look at this wonderful creation. She was already born in God's image, but now she's walking in it, taking that negative energy and flipping it. Look at her now, the truth, she's spitting it. Oh man, look at her go, she's really killing it. But it's not always about killing it, it's about feeling it. Because them loving you is one thing, but you loving you is different. So don't conform to other ways of thinking, but in this already systematically designed world, create your own blueprint. Thank you.
Thank you, Amira. Can we show Amira some love in the chat or with our hands or unmuting?
Consistent,
Thank you.
excellent,
Yeah.
excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. Inspirational.
Oh, Jenny, we will put a video just of Amira's portion on the website as well, so you can come back to it. Yeah, I see a lot of love coming in the chat, Amira.
Thank you so much. That poem is actually very near and dear to my heart. So I usually don't explain my poems, but if I can, I will just give a little bit of insight into what it is. So a eulogy, if we don't all know what a eulogy is, it is something said at a funeral of a person. And so when I was creating this poem, I was just thinking about my old self and how I wanted to renew myself and become a different and better person. And so throughout my journey of just becoming me, becoming Amira, and really knowing who I am, I had to really accept myself for who I was. I had to not let outside forces dictate my own self-worth and what I believed about myself. And I think that's a part of becoming a leader, is having that self-awareness and being okay with who you are. And then going into when I wanted to start to use my voice and speak out, and then I hear a lot of people saying, stop it. And so in my poem, when I said that young baby who they never had to tell to stop it, and now they want me to stop it, it was kind of like, I was so good as a child and they never had to tell me to stop. But now that I'm using my voice and expressing these issues, they want me to stop. And I have to realize that not every stop is meant for me. And I'm not always supposed to stop when somebody tells me to stop, because I was passionate about using my voice and speaking and really delivering that message. And so I really just wrote that poem to express myself, to express those feelings, and talk about how I then went 360 and came out to be the person I am today. So RIP to the old me, RIP to that person who wasn't confident, RIP to that person who didn't believe in herself, RIP to that person who didn't use her voice, because I was given this voice and so I'm going to use it now. RIP to those feelings, RIP to the chatter around me in my ear telling me that I wasn't good enough, RIP to all of that. And then here I am, new, talking, speaking, being myself, loving who I am, and then encouraging others to do the same. And so that's why that poem is very near and dear to my heart. I wrote that when I was actually 15 years old, standing in the kitchen. I just had all of these emotions built up, and then this is how I explain them and write them out. So I am now here, new, reborn, confident in myself, and willing to share my voice with the world. So thank you guys for having me every month. And I'm so excited to be back every month.
Thanks, Amira. Oh,
thank you.
Yeah. So Lauren, do you want to share what we're up to in this mixed cohort group?
Reflection. We're up to reflection. So we have some guiding questions, and it would be great if we can get those into the chat. But the guiding questions are, what were your biggest takeaways from the Youth Empowerment Panel? And how do you empower students to have a voice and take on leadership roles at your school or through your organization and your work? We're recognizing and honoring here different requests and feedback too around just keeping a space to be reflective, and the power of reflection to really draw out and cement learnings. So lean into the last 20 minutes, y'all, and we will go into our random mixed breakout.
And Lauren, are we exiting from the breakout rooms, or are we coming back to the
Yep, we can exit from the breakout rooms. Mm-hmm.
So everybody,
thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, if I'm gonna drop into the chat one more time just in case that evaluation, which we really do take seriously. So if you didn't get a chance to do it during that little break before Amira, you'll have a chance now. I'm going to create breakout rooms that have 4 participants per room. So you'll get to mix with people hopefully outside of the cohort that you usually meet with. So enjoy.